Hey everyone, quick little announcement here from Fishing the DMV. Our Weekend Warrior Club membership on Patreon is nearly full. There are only 16 spots still available. Once these spots are gone, they're gone, and I'll be closing the club to any new members until 2026. At that point, you can try to join again, but it'll be at a higher rate. So get your rates locked in now, and you'll gain access to our 5 fishing tournaments each year for Patreon members only, 5% off your orders to Jake's Bait and Tackle, 10% off your order to Tiger Crankbaits, 10% off your orders to Catoctin Creek Rods. You'll gain access to our private Facebook group community, loads of members only content, and of course, ad-free, commercial-free episodes of the show. You get all this for $6 a month, which is less than a pack of Cincos or a Jackhammer Chatterbait. Lock in these rates now because in 2026, I'm going to be increasing the rate to new members. And again, I'll give you an extra one here. I'll give you 8% off if you buy the membership for the year. So that'll be $66 for all of this value. There are only a few spots left, so hurry up and check out the link in the episode description. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Monday Night Live. We are here, and thank the gods, it is the last Monday of February. In 2 weeks from today, we have daylight savings time, which means we'll finally have really good weather. I had my first swim of the year it was supposed to be yesterday, but there was so much ice floating down the river that we canceled it. Definitely going to bring up a new bill because you guys don't know, for the Upper Potomac, you're not allowed to fish a weigh-in tournament from the first week of March until mid-June, which is absolute bullshit. I am bringing that up to the Black Bass Advisory Board in April because it's just, if you're going to have cold winters, it basically means you can't fish from January all the way up until June. So anyway, so I'm going to wait on that. But speaking of tournament results, we have 2 guys that just wrecked the shit out of them on Lake Gaston with a 24 plus pound bag. Absolutely insane. We know him. We love him. McNugget, how are you doing today, sir? How are you guys all doing?
Good, thanks.
I'm good, buddy. How you been?
It's been a heck of a winter so far. I can't wait for spring.
They're moving.
So, how'd you guys meet? What's your story?
Well, I met this knucklehead fishing in Suffolk, and I had fishing with a good friend of mine named Kevin Charity, and we were fishing Lake Mead in Suffolk, and thought we were doing well. Caught a bunch of schooling fish coming in with like 19, 20 pounds. Thought we had it, and pull up to the ramp. I'd never seen this guy before in my life. This was, I think, in August or July. I don't remember. But might have been early September. But I pull in, lay my fish. I thought we had it. He comes in with 25 pounds.
I think it was in the
fall. When was it? It was
sometime it was in the fall.
Yeah. And so he comes in with 25 pounds. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? I was like, she's never been here before, like maybe twice. And I've been fishing the Suffolk Lakes for 15, 20 years. And it was, I mean, I'm fishing with some guys out there that you probably think you've had Chaz on before, and Jared, and they've been fishing out there almost as long as I have, and Brad Webb and those guys, and this guy just comes into town and just starts taking all our money.
That's about right. With that said, Matt, you've had I mean, this is something you've already posted on your social media. It's been an interesting spring for you. You had multiple wins almost back to back. You caught a damn near almost 11-pound bass. Were you expecting this in the sense of, were you expecting good finishes in these couple of events, or was this all a shock to you?
I'd say last weekend was definitely a shock. The Chick Lake tournament, I felt like I'd been fishing there all winter, so I felt pretty prepared for that. But I mean, it's all a shock, man. You can't go expecting to catch all these big fish and have these good finishes. It's just, I just prepared well. You know, I just went prepared to these tournaments, not expecting to do well, but it's just, I knew I had a chance to do well because I was prepared. But yeah, I wouldn't say I expected it.
When you say prepared, what's interesting is, if people that don't know, you start off in a 1452 Grizzly Johnboat, something like that. I'm completely messing it up. And then of course you have a big boat as well. So with that said, What is your DNA when it comes to practicing? Are you running and gunning, or do you just put trolling motor down, or do you just stick your feet in the water and feel the chakra of the universe and go from there? Like, how does it work?
This year I've kind of really thought about it, the mentality behind practicing, just with going to these bigger tournaments and not having any experience on these bodies of water. Like Gaston last weekend, I was limited to my Johnboat on Friday last weekend, so I stayed in this one particular area. And I just kind of went with the mentality of I need to find the areas of the lake that are holding better than average fish. And I just focused on moving water until I found that. Luckily enough, in my Johnboat, when I found it pretty quickly, because that's near where I launched. But on Sunday, I went back after I picked the Ranger up on that Saturday, and I got to explore a little bit more of the lake, obviously, because I got to move around. But I found myself in a couple of areas where I felt like there were fish, but they weren't active. And I just kept moving. I fished one big creek and had one bite, and then I ran way up the lake, and I fished an area where I probably caught a limit in a short period of time, but they were all small ones. And then I was like, okay, there's fish here, obviously, but now I need to find the better than average fish. So then I moved to another area and started catching some better quality fish. But I think that's the mentality, is finding the area of the lake that seems to be producing better than average size fish.
Were any of the areas you found in your Johnboat, did they play at all? Or was it all stuff you found in the Ranger?
The whole tournament, it was all stuff I found in the Johnboat.
Interesting. Because I keep going back to something Nolan Miner told me about when you have a kayak. The thing is, like, you can't blast around all over God's earth. You really have to be good at picking your areas and fishing, maximizing them. And Gaston's just not known for accessibility when it comes to boat ramps. I mean, there is a few, but it's not like Kerr, where it has a shit ton of them. So was it just you just kind of like hammering down and focusing on the areas you could fish effectively with the range you had?
Yeah, I mean, that's always what it is when I take the Johnboat, because I've been taking the Johnboat to bigger places. It's the same mentality as a kayak. I get to move a little bit more, but if the conditions are bad, I'm pretty much stuck to a particular area. So you kind of have to figure out what's going on in that area. So yeah, it's the same mentality with the kayak for sure.
What are your thoughts on
Just
Gaston?
Hunkering down and dissecting that one spot. What's that?
So you talk about the mentality. You did your practice, and if I'm not mistaken, this is kind of your first real time at Gaston in general. You don't have a lot of experience compared to like the Res or Chesden. Mm-hmm. So what was your takeaway just from how Gaston is compared to other places? Does it set up like anything that you're used to?
It's similar to Anna in a way. I mean, it's just, you get that red clay. There's a lot of riprap. It's different than most of the stuff that we fish in Central to Northern Virginia. But I mean, I'd say it sets up similarly to Anna. I mean, it was the same basic thing. I mean, it's February. The fish are still winter time, but they're starting to think about going up. And you get a warm day, and they'll start pushing up. But just looking for channel swing banks, same generic pattern that we normally fish on any other body of water, Chesden, Anna, the Res, all that same stuff. But there just happens to be spotted bass in the lake.
Going into it, and then anyone can answer this question. You had again 25 pounds, and you had a lot of green fish. Were you guys shocked about that at all? Like
all green fish?
Yeah,
we didn't start out that way. Spotted bass, man. We had loaded the spotted bass at the beginning of the tournament. They were just nonstop. First place we had like 15 pounds in 20 minutes. I mean, it was just stupid with the spotted bass. And then throughout the day, the last fish we caught was a 3.8 or 3.9 spot for that 4.2, something like that. And that was in the afternoon.
Yeah, the last fish we called out was the one you called and it was a spotted bass. But, I mean, it's kind of surprising, honestly, just where the largemouth were positioned. Like Parish's largemouth that he caught at the end of the day that culled, we found the pattern. We pulled up on this one spot, and we kind of didn't expect to get bit, but as soon as we could see, basically we found him on the flatter banks. Like it was the flatter banks moving into these pockets. there was a little breeze on it, it was better, and especially if there was some rock transition going from 5 to 20 feet or 5 to 10 feet, 15 feet, whatever. But the largemouth he caught was in a school of like 50 spots. In the first cast, he throws in there and catches a 4-pound largemouth, and then we catch 10 more spots that are all like a pound, pound and a half.
Yeah,
so
it was crazy.
It wasn't expected. I was hoping to catch a big spot.
I think those spots.
It was just totally.
I think those largemouths sit underneath those giant schools of spot in there, and they feed off whatever the spots. They're so much more aggressive, and they just anything that the spots don't get, the largemouth are just sitting underneath and just supping up all the injured bait. I mean, that's the only reason I've never caught a bigger largemouth like that. These were all small spots, so they were like, pound and a half, 2-pound spots, and then there's this big largemouth hanging out with them, which was, I know they hang together. It was just kind of odd that they were together.
Do they look different on the scope? The schooling spot versus the largemouth size difference or anything like that? Interesting.
No. I mean, the difference between a 2-pound spot and a 6-pound largemouth, you can definitely tell, but you can't tell the species or anything like that. No.
On Kerr.
But if you see,
no, go for it.
I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, if you see one shoot from 30 feet up to 2 feet below the surface, it's probably a spotted bass. But I mean, we saw it on that one spot where he caught that big largemouth. We moved into the middle of the pocket to go to the other side, and there's a fish out there we're trying to target, and then all of a sudden you just see this little tiny dot just come off the bottom, and then here comes a spot just, skyrocketing out of 30 feet of water straight to the surface.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. But you were saying about bugs?
It's just the craziest thing about these spot lakes, though, is when you're not dealing with a 2.5 to 3 pound average spot lake, catching those largemouth are such unicorns. And I know at Kerr, I've had a couple of people talk about the little tricks like switching to a bigger jig just to get through the swarm of locusts that are those little freaking like pebble sized spots to get to them. Did you guys figure something out like that? Or is it literally just hoping to God that it gets past the dinks and gets to them?
Go ahead, man. I have my opinion on that, but it's
I was waiting for you to answer.
Go ahead.
No, it's just the big largemouth we caught were isolated. Like they don't.
Gotcha.
That's why we brought that story up. Is it seemed kind of abnormal. It seemed kind of abnormal for that largemouth to be sitting there with those spots, because the big largemouth we had already caught were isolated by themselves. Like they don't like being around a bunch of fish. In the summertime, the big ones will get ganged up too, and as well as in the wintertime. But it just seemed like those big largemouth were more
big females.
They wanted to be.
They'll move up and they'll sun their eggs. They'll move up in the water column a little bit in this time of year to try to get their eggs warm. And I think that's probably what helped us.
We have a question on Instagram, which is a good one here. Going into the tournament, did you think it was going to take 24, 25 pounds to win?
I felt mid to low 20s because of what Kevin Gunn had told me. But, I had no idea. Even when we had 25 pounds, I was like, I still have no idea if we won. Because I'd never fished down there. I don't understand how the weights work, if it's stupid good right now. But, you just never know this time of year.
I fished with a buddy of mine the last couple of years, a few of those casts in there, a guy named Caleb. And we figured, 18 to 21 pounds probably in that range. That's where we were thinking. And yeah, it was like it turned in. We called out when we at the end of the day, and we're calling a 4-pound largemouth because we had a 4.28 in the boat at the last 15 minutes of the day. I was like, it's kind of odd. I've never been on Gaston and really called 4-pound bass before. It was pretty good feeling.
If you didn't tell me the lake, I would not have thought Gaston, because those are some almost Lake Anna right now kind of weights. It was pretty stupid what you were pulling out of there. And maybe it just means that you need to start ranking Gaston a little bit higher, because I just did not think Gaston was capable of those kind of weights before. Like it was solid weights, but not 25 freaking pounds. That's a hell of a bag almost anywhere in the
almost
East Coast.
26. It was 25.8, right? Something like that.
Yep. 25. I should because it's in the goddamn
Bubba
title.
said 26, but she lied.
Yeah, Bubba was wrong.
Bubba was wrong.
Chris Gilbert, Carolina rigged -1. Absolutely. That's funny.
That's my secret, Chris. Don't tell anybody that.
Yeah, that will cost you $100.
Saw a lot of guys.
No, I think Gaston's fantastic.
Where would you rank it? Would you rank it above or below bugs?
Above bugs.
I mean, just based off, I've never heard of somebody catching almost 26 pounds out of bugs, but
I know.
And there was 4 other 21 plus pound bags. So
yeah, we had a good turnout of weights for Gaston.
Mm-hmm.
So walk me through the day, and then guys, drop your questions in here that you have them for these two absolute studs. I'm going to do this. Best 2 questions that I pick, and I tell you guys, you win. You're going to win a gift card to Tiger Crankbaits and Jake's Bait and Tackle. So walk through the day then. Like, so you were started to talk earlier. In the morning, you get to your spots, and you just start catching about 38,000 pounds of spotted bass, right? When did it start tipping to like, we're doing a thing? Oh shit! Like this is turning into a day.
Go ahead. Yes,
Go ahead.
I mean, so after we went to a couple spots first thing, and there was they were void of any bait. We were like, "Where's the bait? Where's the bait?" We did notice that the water was moving a little bit in the morning, and I know maybe that Kerr was in flood stage and they were pumping hard. I mean, it was like I think all the ramps in Kerr had actually closed because they were like 308, 309 or something, and they had shut all the ramps down. And the water was extremely muddy, even all the way down to the dam. And so the first place we went, we were looking for kind of clear water. And then we didn't see the bait. And then we just started looking, and we saw bait, and we found some drop offs. I don't know, 18 to 30 feet, somewhere in there. And it was on like Donkey Kong with the spots. You could see them blowing through the bait balls. I mean, just looked like piranha. And then we just kind of moved from there once we had our limit and went down to some other areas near bluff walls and found some few on bluffs.
Mm-hmm. How much did you have with your spot bag before you moved to bluff walls? 12 pounds, 6, 10? Okay.
Yeah. It was like 12 or 13 pounds. But when it really started changing was we caught that limit of spots off of the first spot, fished a little roadbed. Nothing there, then moved over to a brush pile and caught our first one out of that. And then we moved to our second spot. Like you said, they were kind of messing up the bait pretty good on these drops, and probably 15 to 30, yeah. And caught 12, 13 pounds of spots. And then I went to what I thought was the best looking area from what I found on Friday, the best looking spot. And I could see these fish on Friday in my Johnboat, and it was 5:30. The sun had gone down. It was behind the houses, and there was a group of fish up underneath this one particular boat dock. And I could tell. I mean, they were big fish, but I didn't know if they were bass because I didn't get any reaction from them. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But this area looks amazing. It's deep rock drop. There's a bunch of pockets right around it, and we ran over to that, and I caught a 6-pounder pretty quick on that spot. And then that's when I was like, okay, we have a chance to do something. I didn't expect to get a 6-pounder because I caught one on Friday, but I didn't, knowing Gaston, I wasn't sure how common that was if people were going to wreck 6-pounders like that. But once we got one good one, I felt pretty good that we had a chance at doing something.
But you weren't sure if it was a bass, but yet you still went there. Was it because of what you saw fish-wise, or just because of how it set up the area?
Just because of how it's set up. It looked too good. I mean, it was a sheer rock drop. There's boat docks right in front of it. There's a bunch of stumps and stuff, a point that sticks out. Like I said, some pockets. It was textbook pre-spawn. So I just figured let's run over there. I mean, it looked great. It's set up right on the map, and we ended up weighing a 6-pounder and a 5 1/4 off that.
It's just something that's interesting to me with scope. I feel like I've had to train my brain personally that just doing the old school, you graph, you see a stump, you waypoint it, you fish it. I've kind of figured like it's too old school. Like the tournament I won, I flipped my brain around to be like, are there fish here? Are there fish in the area? You can effing see them now. If they're not, you got to exit off as it's not a priority. Go to where you can see them. But how does that old school mentality play of like, well, like you said, this is a rock wall. This has everything. I may or may not see them, but I should kind of prioritize this into my game plan. Like, how do you do that?
I mean, you don't always have to see them. I mean, most of the stuff I found with the side scan, but once you find that with the side scan, that's when you turn around and you dissect it with the forward facing sonar. But I mean, it looks good. Like, it sets up like people have been fishing for a long time. You know what these fish do in the wintertime. I know we're getting close to those fish were pretty much pre-spawn, but I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just an instinctual thing. Like, it looked good. Let's go.
When did you think that you guys actually had a chance? Was it with the 6-pounder, the 5-pounder?
The second 6-pounder.
Yeah.
Once we
6, a 5, a 6. Good God.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we left we talked about it in the morning. So I caught the first 6-pounder, and then we jumped to a different spot not too far from there and got a 4.5-pounder and called it like with a 3 and something. And I think that got us up to about 20. And then once we had that, I was like, dude, I'm out of spots. Like, the area that I found in my Johnboat, I was like, I don't have any more waypoints that I really want to fish. I have some on the other side of the lake. Let's go run over there. And as soon as we got over there, the boat came down, and I just looked at him. I was like, the water's dirty as shit over here. And we fished over there for maybe 30 minutes, ran to another area that the water was a little bit better, but I saw a bunch of fish on that Sunday, and it was just void of life. We went 2.5 hours without a bite, and we were like, screw this. We're going back. And as soon as we went back, it was on, and we started. Yeah.
How long do you give a spot nowadays? Like, especially in lakes like that, the way they set up, especially if you're not seeing anything.
I mean, it can be a minute.
Really?
It just depends on how big the area. If it's a brush pile, I mean, you can pull up, and if you see them in it, or they're not in it, you're gone in 10 seconds. But I mean, it just depends.
Yeah, I'm an old school bass guy. I fished Region 7 years ago with some of my buddies, Vince and all these guys, and the live scope, I've had it for 2 years, and I am like an idiot compared to what Matt knows about it. And the stuff he showed me in the last few months it's just incredible. I feel like I was doing it all wrong, and I wasted so much time fishing spots. And the biggest thing probably it's taught me is these fish move. I mean, they are always moving, and if you don't see them move, gone. They're not there.
Yeah, I agree with you. As a person of this AA meeting, it's trusting that you gotta not listen to your instinct, listen to what your eyes are saying. If you are scanning a whole area and you don't see jack and shit, and they're not tacked to the bottom either, get the hell out of there. Why are you wasting time? And it's just all those seconds, and that's the hardest thing, I think. And that's why it's like, it's not cheating. It's just how fast you can process information and make a decision. The faster.
Yeah, I don't think you should forget your instincts, though, man. Like, even if you don't see them, like, you still have to include that. Like, this sets up right. Maybe I do need to spend a little bit more time here. There's bait here. Maybe some fish are going to come in. It just depends.
That came into play when we started seeing what we were seeing in the afternoon, and actually put a pattern together about 12:30. And then we started running that pattern, and that helped us get that last like 4.5-pounder in the boat. You know, gave us that little edge, because the guy that came in second, I think, had 22 pounds, almost 23 pounds, I think.
I think the problem is when your instincts don't trust what your eyes are seeing. The problem is you almost get your instincts to match what you're also seeing, so they're working together, not against each other. If that kind of makes sense. But that's what at least I struggled with, is trying to make them work together versus against each other. And maybe that's also about fishing history. Maybe that's also what I'm talking about here.
Problems fishing history
is you do well on a spot. Yeah, exactly. And your brain says like, well, I should go do this, but it's like, but the information I'm getting right now says that's not true.
Yeah, you got to listen to the fish, and that's another thing. Listen, it'll tell you, like, you're wasting your time here. Even though it's a great spot and you've caught 1 million fish there in the past, move on. You're not there.
They got fins. They move around.
How much do the large? So where I'm located, it's pretty much all smallmouth, and those effers move a lot. Do largemouth move? Is that something that you're seeing more on at least Gaston? I don't know if the res and other places are the same way, but do they rotate an area?
Oh yeah, I mean they're moving from their winter places to where they're staging to get ready to spray their eggs is what it seems like. Like you can follow them from the deep water into these pockets or whatever. And a lot of those fish, if there's a dock at the front of the pocket, they'll set up on the dock. But I mean, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but there's a lot of the fish that say, screw that. I'm going to stay 2 feet under the surface in the middle of this pocket over 25 feet of water, move back there. And that's some of what we found. That second 6-pounder I caught was doing exactly that. It was just a main lake pocket that went 30, 40 yards back and had a couple of docks, but he wanted to be 2 feet under the surface.
A philosophy that I had a really good smallmouth. I think it was Jeff Little came on the show talking about smallmouth, and he said like they will pick 3 to 4 ambush points and they'll rotate. And he said if you sit, that smallmouth will come back because they constantly are hunting and chasing bait. And it really helped me last year with all my kayak tournaments when smallmouth fishing, thinking that thing. It's like, this is a hot spot. They're going to rotate back through. Do you think largemouth do that, or are they just not that committed to it? They're going to pick a cove and it's like, F it, I'm here. Or do you think they'll rotate ambush spots?
I don't know if they'll rotate ambush spot. I mean, I'm sure they do. The largemouth and smallmouth are pretty similar, but maybe with Jeff, with the current, with the Susquehanna, it's a little different. But I feel like, especially, I've seen this a lot, but what we found is those fish were set up completely different in the morning. So maybe it's like a morning to afternoon thing that those fish, the largemouth will rotate compared to just I'm going to switch from this spot to this spot to this spot. It'll be morning, they set up on deeper stuff, and then as the sun pops up, they're going to move up.
I think that's what they did. They moved up. And they were deep. They moved up.
But I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah,
I'd like to put a tracker on one to see.
Too.
Like put a tracker on one in a big spawning creek or something and just see what he does, if he stays in the same little pocket or what. That'd be cool to see.
I know they've been studies done. I know, Hunter, if you're listening, you're going to love this about the bluebacks, but that you'll have fish in those pelagic lakes that they'll move a shit ton. But if I've always been curious about like res fish or largemouth that are a little bit more stationary because they don't have to move, like how much will they just camp versus fish on Lake Murray that will just roam the whole damn lake with the striper going back and forth. We do have Brian's got a question here. This will be a good one. Brian, you just want a gift card to Jake's Bait and Tackle. You can message me.
Oh man,
what is a good? Yeah,
he's a good guy.
Matt is good at scoping. I'd like to know his take on the difference between the 32 and the 34 black box for Garmin. Yeah, boss, reach out to me. Instagram, Facebook, email. Don't care, and I'll get you that gift card.
The difference between the 34 and the 32, in my opinion, is the bottom definition and structure definition is a lot better with the 34. So sometimes those bottom fish or a fish sitting in a brush pile or something on the 34 is a little bit harder to see. Once they clear that whatever they're sitting on, the bottom or a piece of structure, it's a lot easier to see them. Like you can definitely, it's bright as day. You can still see them really good with the 32, but with the 32, I feel like it gives off a little bit sharper of a return sometimes when I see them on the bottom. Like it'll be more of like a vertical line-ish and it'll glimmer more. And same thing with a tree. Like you're not getting as sharp of a return on the tree or the structure with the 32. So when you do see a fish, if he's suspended in a tree or sitting on a dock post, it's going to pop just a little bit more with the 32.
Yeah, you see the fins better on 32. See him swimming.
Yeah, you can see them swimming. I don't know, that 34. The 34 is really good. I mean, you can see their fins out at 80 to 100 sometimes.
Yeah, especially if you have a big enough screen to see shit. Let's see. We got another question here from Thomas Alderman. Would Matt ever consider teaching me or other people how to use forward-facing units? I would happily pay for his time and expertise. Oh my God, dude! Look, you got a job.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty busy just with work, travel, and all the tournaments I'm going to fish and stuff. But I mean, if somebody were to reach out to me and the timing worked out, I'd be happy to show you.
All right. Got another question here from Pokey15 on Instagram. What is your favorite color palette?
I used moss. I really like moss. I know a lot of people. I mean, if you watch Bassmaster Elite Series, everybody was running amber. Every single person. Or they'll run the blue one maybe, but I mean, I seem to be the only person who runs the moss one.
I tried for a whole year after fishing with Matt to run that stupid green shit, and I need LASIK because I couldn't fucking see anything, and I switched it, and then all of a sudden,
I can see it.
I do. I don't know what it is, and this is where I think big screens make sense because as you get older, it's like, do you go with a 15-inch string or do you get LASIK? Because it's like, holy crap, it makes a difference.
It might be cheaper to get the LASIK.
It might be. It might actually be. Oh shit. Because I've been trying to do perspective mode on a 10-inch. I'm like, dude, I can't fucking see shit. And this probably means I shouldn't drive a car, but yeah, I'm going to be getting a bigger screen this year. We got Lance Gray. Were you all seeing a lot of bait fish there, or were you just picking spots you seen fish?
Both.
There you go.
I would say both, but I think a big factor into saying that this area has the potential was the amount of bait that was there when I found it. Is just I felt confident that with the amount of bait that was in the area that I knew that there was going to be a healthy population. So the bait was definitely important because I didn't see nearly the amount of bait in any of the other spots I fished the previous Sunday compared to where we ended up catching our fish.
How much is too much bait?
Oh yeah, that's a problem.
I mean,
sometimes
is it a thing?
Big problem.
I wouldn't even say how much bait is too much bait. It's where the bait is. Like you can have the biggest pot of bait that you've ever seen. It blacks out the screen for a couple 100 yards. You need to leave. Like there's a spot a quarter mile away that doesn't have any bait, and the fish are probably sitting there waiting for that giant bait ball to come to them. But I mean, I don't like fishing in the bait balls at all. I've had very little success scoping fish that are actively chasing bait fish. There was a fish yesterday that we were fishing for, and Parish threw at him, and the fish was interested in his bait. And as soon as the fish saw that there was a bait ball around, it said "screw you" and went straight to the bait ball.
It's like a cookie next to a piece of lettuce. It's like they're looking at the Demiki, and they're like, I don't want a salad. I'm going after the Big Mac, and they were gone. I mean, they were following it for 10 feet and then gone because they saw the bait ball.
And that's time of year too. I mean, I know in the fall it's good to fish around it, but even then, like I just have had little success fishing where the fish are actively feeding on the bait.
That's interesting. I never thought of it that way. Get to where the bait's going, get ahead of the bait, so to speak. Interesting.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way with shad specifically. I know with blueback it can kind of be a little bit wonky, but I guess it's a completely, because usually if you're fishing a blueback bite, you're moving baits. You're not just doing the Demiki rig crap. It's burning something at 100 miles an hour.
Sometimes you gotta burn the Demiki.
You could burn the Demiki, dude.
Yeah.
I've told this story before, but I was throwing an ounce jig head I found at a saltwater shop, and I was catching them on a Demiki because it's just how much, when I would drop the rod, that bait would just react so fast in 20 feet of water, I could get them to react to it, which blew my mind because I always thought of Demiki being this light little gay thing, but it's just about getting them to react to the bait. And I don't know. Yeah. It's fascinating to me. When you stop thinking in a box and you just start experimenting, it's crazy like what opens up about what they can do and what they'll actually chase to me.
Mm-hmm.
So since I have two Norfolk guys on, I got the shit kicked out of me for that tier list because I didn't know jack about the Norfolk lakes. Not to give anything away, but I had a couple people on that show that said they should be dog shit. I think you said everything on the list, Matt, was a B. Where do they rank comparatively? Because it seems like there's not a lot known about them.
It's a little
can you
secret.
Catch numbers?
It's a little secret down here. I mean, there's been plenty of 30-pound bags caught down here. And,
damn, really?
Yeah. I mean, Chaz, my buddy Chaz, caught 2 10-pounders out of Cahoon, and which is a Portsmouth water supply lake, but they're all there. They're in Suffolk. I caught a 10 with my buddy Bubba. I mean, we've caught. They're all there. I have seen with Bobby, a guy named Bobby Kinsey used to fish with us a lot in Suffolk. We were fishing in Cahoon one time, and we saw every bit of a 14, 15-pound bass on a bed in Cahoon years ago. And they're there.
Good God.
They're there. Yeah, it's just they're so smart. But yeah, it's just a matter of time. I think a matter of time there'll be 35, 36-pound bag caught out of any of those Suffolk lakes. They are phenomenal, phenomenal. Especially because something at down there too often, just like showing us how to catch them, even though we've been in there 20 years.
I think they have 5 fountainheads that are all different. That's what I think about it. I mean, I haven't got to really pick mead. I've fished the most now because there was 2 singles doubles that I fished were on mead. But I mean, they're all different from what I've seen. And it just seems like every single one of them has giant bass in them.
You want to pull Patrick Walters and go into Burnt Mills and fish giant trees in 12 to 15 foot of water and see giants come off the sides of these trees. Yeah, it's like they're there. They just live in those forests. They're underneath. They're suspended in those trees. Some giant fish in Lake Cahoon and Burnt Mills. Yep.
How big are these lakes spitballing? Are we talking 50 acres, size, like 1,000?
So Western Branch is the biggest, and I think it's about 1,400 acres. And then most of them are under 1,000 acres, anywhere from 600, 800, 900 acres. So
that's actually pretty good.
They're pretty big. They're pretty big. They have horsepower restrictions under the city of Norfolk is it's under 12.
Who the hell comes up with these retarded numbers? Like 12, 9, 30. It doesn't make any freaking sense at all.
Yeah.
Do you have rowing team?
Whatever the government decides, but I think that's part of the reason. That's probably part of the reason it wasn't talked about and heard about much. It's just like Fountainhead. It's like there's a horsepower restriction, so it keep people away.
I agree.
You got to have a specific boat.
Yeah, they can't be bigger than 16 feet. I mean, I grew up fishing in a 14-foot well built in those Suffolk lakes. So
they have a size, so you can't even. Wow.
Well, some of the lakes will let you put the boat in, but the engine has to be up.
Okay, that's fine.
They in the last few years, I think there's been some lifting of some of the restrictions, but I do believe the restriction used to be 16 feet, unless it's changed. I've been fishing the bigger stuff in the last 2 years. I haven't been out there as much, but yeah, it used to be 16 foot and then 12 and a half horsepower.
I do think that's what protects like Occoquan Reservoir, because I was talking to some of my kayak friends. We have a tournament where you get to pick between 5 lakes, and people usually don't win on the res. And I think the reason is you can't cover that effectively in the summertime with a kayak. It's such a long lake, and some of these 1,000-acre lakes where if you don't have the right boat, like Matt said, it's hard to fish it effectively. And I think it turns people off and it protects it, so to speak.
Yeah, and you better know where you're running in some of these lakes, because you'll rip your whole lower unit off.
That bad? Wow.
Yeah. There's boat lanes, and most of them, a lot of the guys will mark them, but you just got to be careful running.
Ow.
On Lake Mead, the first tournament, I'm like, I've never fished here, so can I follow somebody? Because we had to run like a mile to where we had to launch, and it's like you're 5 feet off of the bank where you're running on these, where the channel swings in these giant stump fields, and you're going on plane just right next to this stump that's 6 inches across, and you're like, yeah, this is not safe, but they knew where they were going. So
yeah, we didn't hit one
that's
in
really cool.
January.
Which means you hit one in February?
No, we just haven't been back. We haven't been back to fish Suffolk.
No, yeah.
We fished one Suffolk tournament in January. Had like 19, 20 pounds. Yep. Did good.
I was at the Fishing Pro Tech open house 2 or 3 days ago before Hunter went and dropped like a 40-pound bag somewhere. And a couple guys came in talking about there's aerator systems, apparently. Is that true on some of these lakes?
Yeah, they have aerator
Really?
systems. Yep. Yeah, they pump air in there. Usually they turn them off in the winter, but they turn them on in the summertime. That's actually a pattern. You just run around and fish around the bottom of them with a wacky Cinco and let that thing just flutter down underneath that aerator, or fish the aerator hose. I probably shouldn't have told that got a buddy of mine named Corey's going to be pissed that I just said that. But, yeah, that's a good pattern on the Suffolk Lakes in the summertime, because there's little bubbles trickling off those aerator lines in the summertime, and they get right next to those aerator lines.
I know Nye does that too up in Fredericksburg area, where that's a heck of a pattern in the summertime as well, which is, I wonder why more lakes don't do that. It seems like a great thing to make the fishery better, especially in these smaller lakes. I don't know. It's just interesting that there's a correlation.
Lakes are water supply lakes, so they've got to keep these water as clean as possible. So they don't want a bunch of algae. They want them really clean water. That's the drinking water for the city of Norfolk, Virginia Beach. They got that Gaston pipeline that comes in the back of Lake Prince and feeds into Western Branch, and most of the big pumping systems are in Western Branch.
Interesting. I did not know that at all. And guys, I got one more gift card to give away, so come on with your good questions here. We'll go on for a couple more minutes here. Maddie will take you. I built a John and fish there as well. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. I got to be picking between, I got to get a new kayak or a John boat at some point. We'll figure that out too. Got another question here on Instagram. Where are you guys looking forward to fishing the most this year? That's from Salesy20.
Oh, Salsy. Smith Mountain. Actually, no, I can't say that. I'm sorry.
Smith is pretty good.
I'm super excited to go there at the end of March, but probably the New York swing for the Northern Toyotas.
Oh.
I got it. I can't.
Is that an announcement?
Yeah. I mean, I've told a bunch of my buddies and stuff, but I'll be fishing the Northern Toyotas this year, all the Shenandoah BFLs. So a lot of travel to a bunch of places. I won't be able to do my Johnboat gypsy running around fishing everywhere in Virginia as much, but I mean, it's time to take the next step.
Yep.
Picked up that Ranger. Chris and I came to a business deal, and they want to support me in this endeavor, trying to take this to the next level. So I'm super grateful to them. I mean, they're awesome people. But yeah, I gotta say, I would say New York, because I like catching.
Have you ever been there before?
Gil run for his money. I'm telling you that.
Will this be your first time going to New York?
No.
That's good.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, I can't go expecting what it was like last time I went to New York to be the same, where the fish are set up and all that. But I mean, I have the confidence to know I can go up there and I at least know what the river looks like. I mean,
is there a difference between 2 days of practice and then doing a Gaston tournament and doing well versus a day or two of practice and then hopping in a Toyota? Or is it basically the same when it comes from mindset?
I'd say the same mindsets should stay the same. I don't think you should change it just for the scale of the event. I mean, maybe how much time you're spending in an area. And I mean, obviously you're on a time crunch if you only got 2 days, but I mean, the mentality, my mentality, at least, I hope doesn't change going up there and fishing these bigger events. I just feel like if I can put my head down and find the right areas and dissect those areas, it's like I was talking to my buddy Chris, it's like I don't really plan on trying to run too far away from the boat ramp. I'm like, I don't want to burn a shit ton of gas. I just want to stay local and maximize my practice time and try and dissect these areas and figure out where these big fish are positioning.
Yeah, that's one good thing about growing up and fishing in John boats like we both did, is that, you know, you are forced to fish small areas and kind of learn. A guy named Brad Webb runs these John Boat Elite tournaments, and that is like, it's like you go fish these big lakes, but you still got to fish a small area. It's a steep learning curve, but it really helps. So I'm all for the John Boat stuff. I love it. I still have my little John Boat.
Well, especially with so much water in this area that you can do it. I mean, you just mentioned 5 lakes. You have, of course, the Res. You have the lakes around Fredericksburg, Virginia. There's just so many places that it maximizes it to just have a John boat and to fish tournaments like that. Especially with the cost of gas and everything, like doing the Open Series. I mean, unless you financially, because I have some friends that want to do it. It's just expensive as shit to go fish 9 opens. Like, and you're not going to make the money back unless you really turn the table.
Yeah. I mean, you got a lot of these events like BFLs and stuff. I mean, if you're going and practicing for a day or two, I mean, you need a top 3 if you want to make money.
Yeah.
It's expensive, and you better do well if you want to make money at it.
Is there one event that you're looking forward to within the Toyota series? You say the New York Swing. I think it's the St. Lawrence and then Champlain, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you're more of a Champlain guy.
Yeah, I would definitely say Champlain. I'm a little bit more excited for because of the aspect of the largemouth as well. Just to be able to mix that up and not. I mean, I hope the St. Lawrence they're spawning and it's shallow, so it's something different. I mean, that would be great. But I think Champlain, another thing Chris and I talked about is if I can find an area where you can go catch 4-pound smallmouth in the morning, is you're going largemouth fishing for the rest of the day.
How much do you think largemouth are going to play there? Because I know
depends on the conditions. What I've noticed from MLF tournaments over the last couple of years in the Elite Series is when that sun is out, it's usually a smallmouth day. But the next day, if the sun's not out and it's cloudy and shitty out, everybody who's fishing for largemouth comes in with low 20s. So it seems really condition based up there.
That's fascinating.
If you look at the results, it's pretty great. I mean, you can't look back at the results to see the swing between smallmouth weighed in and largemouth, but it's pretty significant, it seems, based on the conditions up there.
I'm waiting for eventually when, I think it was 3 years ago, Brock got a top 10 on the St. Lawrence throwing a chatterbait for largemouth. Mm-hmm. I want to see how big those largemouth can actually get on the St. Lawrence with those goby, because they keep getting bigger too. I know that kind of gets lost because the smallmouth are freaks, but the largemouth are trying to keep pace, which is interesting. I mean, I would never plan a bag around that, but for fun factor, I bet those largemouth up there do not get touched because everyone goes up there for the smallmouth.
Yeah, you hear all the Elite Series guys. If you're like if you make Saturday, if you're in the less than top 20, some of those guys who don't really like fishing the deep stuff or don't really like forward facing sonar, they're like, I'm going largemouth fishing tomorrow. He's like, I can't win. I'm not making the top 10. I'm not around the smallmouth to do that. I'm going largemouth fishing because it is so fun. Like, they don't get touched, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many places like when BPT went up to, I think it was Green Bay, Saginaw Bay, some of those places, and the weights are not crazy, but it's just how stupid those fish are, for lack of a better term, and it's crazy how much water is up there, and it's almost like when you have places like that when it's a goddamn ocean, like where do you start? I mean, it's just a sea of stuff that you can fish, which I really want to take a vacation up there and just try to explore some of those new places at some point. I got an interesting question here from Lance Gray. If it is, let me try this, guys. I can't spell because I have a brain deficiency. Or read. If it is a place you never fished, would you depend on FFS or use all the resources you can? Maps, Google Earth, etc. Why would you cut your nose off to spite your face? But
I mean, it starts with a map. I mean, Gaston, when I figured out I was going to go down there, all I did was I just pulled up my phone and went on CMAP Genesis. And it's like a social map for Lowrance. It's not the most detailed, but you can tell where the channel swing banks are and the long tapering points. I mean, I'll sit there and look at the whole lake. And I usually won't drop waypoints because, I mean, I'll go sit in the Ranger or look at my Johnboat graph and look at that graph too before I go and just kind of give myself an idea. I'm like, okay, there's a few good points in this area. There's deep water in this creek, whatever. Like it definitely always starts with a map when I'm going somewhere new. But I mean, the forward-facing sonar is just, you got to put it in the water and look at it once you get to these areas. I mean, once you find it on the map, you go side scan it. If you see fish on the side scan, stop. If you see structure, it just depends. But it starts with the map, then it goes to the side scan, and then once you find that area that you feel confident in has enough structure and bait fish and fish or whatever around, then you put the troll motor in the water. But
yeah, 100%. You break that lake down and you fish it small, because if you waste your time running everywhere, you're going to run out of time, and you're not going to focus in on what you need to focus on.
Yep. And that's, again, like getting back to your point about the John boats, and at least what I learned from fishing the kayak, there's so many damn fish in an area where if you just rotate through, and I remember the last kayak event of NVKPA season, and we went out of, I picked Sturgeon Creek, and I just did circles, and I did well, because it's crazy. It's like, hey, they weren't there a minute ago, but an hour later they were there.
Yep.
Mhm.
But when you have that 250, there's this reptilian part of your brain says like, send it, just leave. But it's like, is that always the best bet? Because of the time you don't learn those really spots within a spot if you're just constantly driving. So yeah. Tyler, want a Ned rig? I heard. Yes, 100%. Facts. He owns many Ned rigs.
Facts.
I got a bunch of Z-Man TRDs if anybody wants them, because I ain't never throwing them again.
Spots love them. The spotted bass love them things.
Yeah, I bet. He's going to need him for the northern swing when he gets up there on the St. Lawrence. Gardner says, Matt, how much range do you get out of your John boat?
Range is in like how far I can drive on a tank of gas.
That's all it said, so I'm going to go with that.
If that's what you're talking about, I mean, I have a 4-stroke on my John boat, and I have a 3 or 4 gallon tank, and I can't tell you how many times where I've gone and fished a full tournament, like Fountainhead tournament, and running and gunning from one end of the other lake to the other, and I'll have between a half a tank and a third of a tank left, and I can go fun fish for a trip or two, depending afterwards. So, I mean, I can pretty much go wherever. It's just the amount of time I'm willing to spend running to get where I'm going, because I can't go as fast. But it depends on range, what you mean by range, really. But if that's what you mean,
we're gonna go with that as the thing there.
Roger
that makes sense. What do you guys got coming up?
Yep, I got Potomac teams March 15th. First Fountainhead tournament is March 16th. In between that and Smith Mountain, I'm sure we'll find something to jump in. But and then after that, it's back-to-back Piedmont, Shenandoah BFLs on Smith Mountain, March, and then Kerr, April 16th. And that's all I really have until then.
Fishing alphas and the teams on the Elite 70, and then some CATTs.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you're fishing the Elite 70. Are you fishing teams, or are you fishing the solo?
Both alphas and the team. But I've done that last year was the first year of the alphas. Quite handily got my butt handed to me quite often. So, but just getting back into it and learning this forward-facing sonar deal is changing things.
What was the hardest learning curve?
I haven't figured out how to get it to work on the James yet, but I'm learning about how to do it on the Potomac. Perspective mode is the deal.
No,
it is. But spoiler: if you have cataracts, it's not going to help you. You got to be able to tell on the screen. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just becoming. It's harder for me to tell perspective than it is regular view, I guess. Yeah. But I also have Mega 360, so it's not as good as perspective. I 100% concede to that.
No, I think the clarity is great with the Mega 360. I think it's fantastic. It's just the live feed. Like that second delay when it's spinning around, and if you're not power pulled down, it's not as accurate. But Mega 360 is still legit. But it also doubles the weight of your trolling motor, so have fun picking that up every 5 minutes.
I 100% agree. I think Bass, though, did Humminbird a great favor by limiting the black boxes, because I think it's going to give 360 a resurgence. You're seeing it, honestly, right now. Like, there's way more people now with 360 because you can't have 2 pucks. You can't have perspective, and you have to pick, which is interesting. Does Toyota have that same rule, or can you run as many black boxes as you want?
I'm not sure.
I don't think
it may just evolve onto one transducer. Still seems silly to me when all you have to do is hit from forward to perspective mode on the graph and just loosen the screw and rotate it to get it. But that's my opinion.
I agree. I think it's all dumb. I really do. But I really wanted to get your thoughts there, boss, on your couple of years with forward-facing sonar and fishing the Elite 70. Like, what was the hardest thing learning curve wise that you're dealing with?
I'm an old school fisherman. I go from just charts and maps and down scan, side scan, and running spots. The biggest thing for me is to I've had the live scope now for 2 years, and I was kind of using it to search for baits, look for bait, and not really focusing on the fish as much. I knew they were there. I could see the fish, but probably changing my whole way of staying in the area too long has been the hardest thing for me to learn, and how much these fish move. And I mean, I've got a little better every year. I've been with these hammers out there, but it's changing the mentality to kind of blend the old school way of finding good spots with maps and charts, and then dissecting it down smaller with the forward-facing sonar. I mean, you go through with a side scan on the hummingbird on my bird, and I can find spots I want to fish. I can find the brush piles much faster, and then you just pop up on the dash and drop the forward-facing in, and you can see if something's there, and it eliminates a tremendous amount of time. So especially in practice, it's like if you're going out and you're practicing and you want to eliminate a area of water where the fish are, where the bait is, you can do it so much faster and break down a body of water. That's been my hardest thing to learn, is really just wasting too much time in one spot.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I consider myself still learning too. I agree with that.
We're all still learning, man. You can't ever know everything about it, but
unless you're Randy Blockett.
Oh, I guess, yeah, he knows a lot.
That's never going to die with him. Never going to die.
I give him credit, man. I mean, I the hate and all that stuff, but he's smart. He found a niche, and people love eat his stuff up, and he's been making a whole bunch of money. So, whatever. It doesn't affect me one bit at all. What he thinks.
I don't think it's going away. I mean, it's just there's too much money and sponsors in this whole thing that, I mean, like Bass Pro Tour, they limited it to one period. But I don't think it's ever really going to go away. There may be something trickling down to other things, but it's just it's too good. It's a tool in the toolbox. You just got to learn how to use it.
It's too much fun too. It's like saying like,
it is fun.
Air conditioning is too fancy. We're gonna get rid of air conditioning in your car. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe it's bougie, but it's kind of nice to have. And
I mean, again, would you rather go out on a full 8-hour day of fishing and catch 2 fish, or go out and have a blast? I mean, I get the tournament. I get the tournament morals of it and whatever, but it's just everybody wants to go catch fish, and if it's going to help you catch fish,
like the Lake Anna no scope tournament where half the field didn't catch shit.
I mean, it was just a bad time of year to do that tournament. I mean, I like the idea.
Exactly.
Wait till they get the score and then do it.
That's what I thought. I was like, post spawn is a great time of year to do that. And I get the no forward facing sonar, but not having a map or down scan. I mean, if you don't know the lake and you don't have depth or a map, you're going to run up on some shell bar or something and mess your stuff up. So, I mean, people have been fishing that way for a long time, but I'm just...
I thought that, and this is my thought for everyone listening, so don't put it on them. I think that's retarded. I think the map thing was completely retarded because it's called liabilities, and they could be sued because that's just stupid. Like, I get away taking away a sonar, but from like a court case to be like, I ran a tournament because they told me to close my eyes. It's like, because it's what old people used to do. It's like, that is dumb as hell. Mapping.
I thought that was silly.
Old people.
Yeah, I'm just saying from a court of law, that and fish, it's just dumb laws like that. Like, oh yeah, you have to go fish an electrical storm because, back in the day you did that. It's like, yeah. And you could probably get sued nowadays if you do that. Cause I'm seeing that a lot with the college, they're doing college kayak tournaments now. And the first thing I thought was like, this is a liability. How many people are going to drown? Because you're going to put 200 18-year-olds probably were pre-gaming the night before out on a lake or a river. That sounds amazing. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that. We got a lot of people saying, yeah, okay. Well, I'm just, guys, this is what I'm saying. I know that pissed off the comment section.
They'll be all right.
I remember I was talking to Watson on Basscast Radio, since I'm a co-host there. I don't know how that happened. And he said like, oh yeah, can't believe we call it like we have forward facing sonar lakes and non. Back in the day, it's like, dude, lakes set up differently. It's like you have a home run ballpark and a pitcher's ballpark. Like, you can't tell me the St. Lawrence River or Toledo Bend in February doesn't give a little bit of advantage to one thing versus the Mississippi River when it's covered in hydrilla. Like, just stop being a freaking boomer about that thing. It is what it is. So I'm gonna get off that soapbox. We got Chad there. Like, let's go, guys. Where's this other question right here? Strike City DMV. It's never going away. Sponsors are pumping about $300 million between Garmin, Lowrance, and Humminbird. Yeah. I will tell you this though, Garmin, this is not their bread and butter. Garmin could quit tomorrow and they don't give a shit because they are doing this as a fun side hustle. Garmin's whole thing, watches, satellite technology, like this, the fish side of things, guys, is not mapping. Their big, and that's, mapping.
Avionics, yep.
Yep. Why is it Humminbird and Lowrance come out with a new thing every year and Garmin doesn't? It's because they don't need to make their margins work.
So Garmin's is still better somehow.
Yep. I don't know how, but my God, it is. I am sad though that Helix went away. I'm really depressed about that because it was a good little fish finder. It just, I don't know. I was really depressed about that. But,
there's a lot of
anyway.
Is Motor Guide going? Have you heard anything about this? Is Motor Guide going out of business?
I think they're looking for something to buy them out. Allegedly.
Because my Fountainhead partner Alex is building a new Johnboat. It's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited. We won't be fishing out of the dinghy anymore. But he was looking for the Motor Guide because I have Motor Guide X3 on my Johnboat, and I told myself I'd never buy another trolling motor for the Johnboat. It's fantastic. I love it. But he was looking for it, and they can't find them. They're gone. So I was just curious if you knew anything about that. So.
Because their kayak trolling motor is like the best selling. So I don't know what's going on if they're trying to switch out to a different style or whatever, but they were one of the first ones to get the kayak trolling motor going. And that thing sold like hotcakes. So I'm curious if they're just doing a reorg. I mean, that's the other thing too, is like there's so many of these freaking, it's shrinking. Everything's shrinking and being turned into a freaking private equity, takeover.
Yes.
That's the boring stuff we could say for another conversation.
No, we're going to bring it up right now because Dobbins Rods is ridiculous. What has happened with that company is truly heartbreaking.
Yeah, tell everybody what happened.
I mean, I'm not in the industry, so I don't know exactly the details of what happened, but it seemed to me like based off of all the stuff that everybody said on Facebook around New Year's Eve, they posted a video on Instagram of Gary in the warehouse talking about the integrity of the company, like we're going to stay true to our roots, blah, blah, blah. And literally New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, they literally fired everybody and said, we're closing the warehouse. And they had the best customer service. The people at the warehouse were fantastic. They had the best rods. But if GSM truly did what everybody has said that they are doing, I will never buy another one. So, and people were bitching on Facebook, on the Facebook page, that they're calling and it's overseas call centers that are answering the customer service calls.
Yeah.
Like I just, that's not acceptable. That is not cool in my book.
Yeah. I'm worried about this year fishing wise. I really think the bubble is going to pop in the economy before everything resets, and it'll be interesting to see what happens next year with everything. If you guys are looking for a job, since I might be unemployed, just kind of ride out this year. I think next year is going to be the golden year if you can hold on. Timmy says only rods in my boat are Dobbins. I hope they don't stop making. They'll go underground. I think it's going to go underground. Personally, good products never die.
Well, they're sending them to the same warehouse. GSM apparently owns Phoenix rods, so they're sending them to the same warehouse, and apparently they're going to start switching over and trying to focus on Phoenix rods. Maybe their profit margins are better, but it sucks, man, because I absolutely love those rods. I mean, I think they're by far the best, the most sensitive, the most balanced. But it's just, I can't see myself ever buying another one. I'm switching all over to Shimano.
And it's funny because I've been a Phoenix guy, and it's not the same Phoenix rods anymore. And I don't buy any more Phoenix because they got bought out by them, and they're not the same OG company that they were. which sucks because they made some great BFS kind of rods and stuff for smallmouth fishing. But it's all getting like standardized. So it's like the same rod, but it's again, Triton and Ranger. It's the same damn boat, different brand. I know, come at me. Yeah. But the fact is, like, they're not different at all anymore. They used to be, but it's now like the same damn thing. So I don't know.
Hunter's going to be pissed about that comment.
Come at me, Hunter. It's the same truth. Ranger boats right now suck. And I know I have one that was built in the Cold War. That one was built different. Tritons were built different 20, 30 years ago. Now it's the same goddamn boat. It just is. I mean, sorry. Bass Cat and Phoenix and maybe like Falcon, they're different-ish. But yeah, I don't know. Anything owned by White River is, I don't know.
I love my bird.
That Phoenix is unbelievable.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, a 721 is an awesome boat.
Yeah. They're fantastic. That's like a rocket ship, man. That's like the Tesla of bass boats. I'm sure I've never really ridden in a Bass Cat or any boat that would be considered super fast, but I mean, there was a major difference going in that Phoenix than in the old Ranger.
I hate Bass Cats because I don't want to see God. Yeah. And maybe it's because I've ridden in so many Rangers where it is more like an aircraft carrier going through the water and not just a piece of cardboard strapped to a rocket. But dude, those things just, I don't know, they beat the crap out of you. They're fast. They're really fast, but my God, you get pushed around
65 miles an hour is...
It's fine.
You have fun in Champlain in that boat.
I know, because we have the guys from
boat up there if you want.
I think we'll be all right. That Ranger's seen the Potomac River on some of her worst days.
Oh yeah.
So I know we have the Bass and Beer Radio guys in the comment section. You guys know about that because you guys just rebuilt an old school Charger that allegedly goes like 90 miles an hour. I love you guys, Tony, but that thing is too effing fast because Jesus, when the hell are you going to go 90 on the upper Potomac or the upper Bay or the Potomac River and not die? But anyway.
I mean, it's cool. I just never understood the need for speed. And that, I mean, I get wanting to get to your starting spot first, but I've just never been that desperate to get to a starting spot going 75 miles an hour, chime walking the whole time, me stomping my foot in the passenger seat, like, slow the fuck down.
If you're not first, you're last. A bullet. I'm sorry, it's a bullet. Yeah, well.
A bullet. Oh, my gosh.
Bullet is fast.
Yeah.
Right, River Custom or not amazing. We got a couple more comments here, guys, and we'll be shutting this bad boy down. Missed my old 20-foot Cougar, although I thought I was going to see God a few times.
You can't catch the fish if you fall out of the boat, so.
That's also facts. Let's see. We are working on setting up the Bullet too. Yeah, why don't you don't get rid of that manual jack plate, bud. That thing is, come on. You're the only one. We got two more here. Boat 1 or Boat 40, same thing in my old girl.
That's right.
I don't disagree with that. For sale, by the way. No. Yeah, you're going to need a new one. All right, guys. Promote your social media. What do you guys got coming up if you got anything?
No. Just follow me on Instagram, Matt_McCluskey Fishing. I'm sure he'll put it in the comments section. But like we talked about, just a bunch of tournaments coming up. Just trying to keep the ball rolling, Started off hot.
Yep. Love it.
Oh,
learning more every day.
This was you know what? This is why I'm having a Joe Biden moment. You caught a damn near 11-pound bass. You guys have seen some shit on the water. Do you think there's a 16 swimming around Virginia that hasn't been caught yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anna's got some giants.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not to give up the body of water, but just biologists say like it can't be done in Virginia because it's like everything has to be correct. But I just feel like there's more fish that are big being caught right now. Like
got them.
Briery,
yeah, there's a bunch of places in Virginia. Maybe not a bunch, but there are a select few places in Virginia that. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I think that it could with the forward-facing sonar, and there's some of these small secret places that nobody knows about that it could certainly happen. But I mean,
you work for a guide service.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. What?
All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. We got things to do. Go check them out. This will be re-uploaded tomorrow morning with everyone's social media information. Go check them out and support them on their endeavors. We're gonna yeah, we're going to create something to help follow McCluskey on his journey from here to Canada as he goes up the food chain to the Toyota series. Like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.